Into the Unknown, a podcast dedicated to exploring the mysteries of the universe, with your host, Jason Stokes. Okay, so this is Into the Unknown, episode number 6. And today we're going to be talking about meditation and grounding. So if you don't know what grounding is yet, stick around and you're going to find out. And today we are joined by two guests, Alain Davis and Alain Stokes. And we'll start with Alain, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Alain. I think last time I got introduced as basically just the Gestalt Media superfan, and I think that probably sums things up quite nicely, so we'll just stick with that.
I think that's a good name for you. You're earning a reputation as being our biggest fan, and we certainly appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad that you appreciate it better than being hated for it.
I don't think we could do that. And Anna is here with us as well. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Alain Stokes, and I am editor and accountant at Gestalt Media and general morale keeper and stained glass artist.
Awesome. And if you get a chance, we'll put a link to your stained glass in the description below because it's really worth the time to take a look at that. So today, what we're going to talk about is a little bit on meditation and a little bit on something called grounding or earthing, which has a lot to do with getting in touch with the energy that exists within the earth. And there's been a lot of studies on this. There's been a lot of research done into the effectiveness of grounding itself. And surprisingly, unlike a lot of the things that we talk about, it seems that the consensus is that there is an effect and there is a measurable effect from reconnecting yourself with nature's energy, natural energy. So we'll go over that a little bit. I'm going to start with an article that came out from the National Institutes of Health, and we'll leave a link for that as well, that goes over the effects of grounding in a controlled environment. So in this particular study, they didn't use the typical method, which is basically barefoot on the earth. They used electrical currents that were grounded in a laboratory setting. And what they found was that there was a measurable difference in inflammation within the body, immune response, wound healing, treatment of chronic inflammatory and autoimmune diseases, heart issues. There was across the board a very noticeable difference between people who had spent time in a grounded situation as opposed to the control group who hadn't. So I guess we'll change it up. We'll start with Anna this time because you usually sit on the sidelines. I know that you have experienced this yourself. You do practice earthing whenever it's possible. We live at a pretty high altitude, so it's a limited number of months in the year. But have you noticed anything significant, or what are your thoughts on the study itself?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that when it was introduced to me, it made sense. It also just kind of sounded crazy at the same time. And I was extremely skeptical to begin with. But when I thought back about it, all the times that I think I felt the best, had the most fun, is when I was a kid. And I would always throw my shoes off and run around the yard and play outside with no shoes on. And then when I got older, going to music festivals or going camping, I always loved like throwing off the shoes and always have your feet on the ground. And I just thought I could attribute everything to drinking at the festival or being a child and always being in a good mood. But then when I really thought about it, I'm like, what's the big deal? Let's just give it a try. It's not going to hurt anything. And I guess it's been about 2 years ago when I really started studying about it and was introduced to it. And I can feel it's a marked difference when I can spend time outside and just feet, skin, or lay down on the ground if you have a place like that outside. It really calms me down, makes me feel better. It takes away some pain, and it's also nice to be out in nature, of course. I feel like that's healing in itself. But when I see that there have been studies and there are results and there's some numbers and data that you can put your finger to it, and giving it a try myself, it's something I really believe in.
And that's actually what I believe a lot of people have experienced. So the people that I know who have tried it, and some laughed when they started, and others were, they were more open-minded about it and they gave it a shot. But I haven't found anyone yet who hasn't said that they at least felt better. And when it comes down to the end of it, as far as a meditation practice or a general well-being practice, if you feel better afterwards, I mean, it works. That's the basis of why you're trying that. But to see that there is some science backing it up and supporting the theory that there might actually be something to this, something that we haven't quite come to understand yet, but that there is a measurable difference seems like a pretty big deal.
I agree with Anna. I mean, so I was sort of in the same boat where, you read something about it and you're like, that's logical. It kind of makes sense. But then you're like, really? I don't know. But then when you try it, for whatever your motivation is, you do notice a subtle difference. I mean, is it going to overnight take something away or cure something? Well, no, probably not. But in my situation, I find that it enhances, it improves slowly over time. And for me, that is what made it worth it. I absolutely believe in it. In my situation, I was drawn onto it because I had been exploring meditation and different techniques about meditation. And one of the things that I had come across repeatedly was that if you meditate, connected to the earth, typically, seated outside, sitting in the grass, that sort of thing, that it heightens your meditation. And it was a little bit early on, and of course at the time I was living in Arizona, and for anybody that's lived in Arizona, it's hot and it's not always comfortable to sit in the sun, and I didn't have any grass, so it wasn't exactly feasible for me to do those sorts of things there. And it wasn't really until we moved to Iowa, where we are now, a couple of years ago, that I really got the opportunity to really put it into practice. But man, once I did, like, the difference is night and day. I feel like my meditation is deeper. It's more restorative. It's just kind of amazing how much different it really is. And that's my favorite way to meditate. Now, of course, when it's snowing outside, obviously I can't do it that way, but that is my favorite way to meditate. So I definitely feel like there's something to it.
Yeah, I actually feel the same way. And like you said, we live in Arizona as well, and rocks and sand and cactus don't make for excellent meditation when the temperature is
Neither does the
120
heat.
degrees. No, not a bit.
Exactly.
Since we've moved back to the East Coast, it's been a lot easier to spend time outside, and I have found that in my experience, I have inflammation problems myself, where just where medication won't do it and diet doesn't seem to really hit the spot, that spending just a little time every day outside connected to the ground is as crazy as it sounds. has a measurable effect. I actually feel better, and my joints feel better, my muscles feel better, and I mean, if that's coincidence or that's a placebo effect, I'm fine with that. But it does actually seem to work. And what
Right.
the Health Institute said is, and as I've said many times on this show, I'm definitely not a scientist. So I'm going to basically read it exactly as it's written. They said that specifically grounding an organism, that's what we are, produces measurable differences in the concentrations of white blood cells, cytokines, and other molecules involved in the inflammatory response. And they list several hypotheses for why this happens, but it's essentially saying that something about that connection is causing your body to have a physical response, and it's lowering the levels of harmful activity, which is going to make you feel more centered. It's going to make you feel healthier. It's going to make you feel more vibrant or energetic. And as we've studied many diseases, I've noticed that inflammation seems to be one of the key elements in easily 2/3 of chronic illness that affects people every day. Is that it always links back to inflammation, which is, the body's immune response. So if we can find something that lessens that for whatever reason, then that seems like it's going to have monumental health benefits. So like you said, it's not going to take it away. You're not going to cure cancer by sticking your feet in the dirt, but you probably will feel a little bit better. And I think that's worth looking into and studying and experiencing.
So a little bit about the theory, I guess, of grounding and earthing. This is something that I've read from a book called Earthing, the Most Important Health Discovery Ever. And it's one of those things that as we go through our daily life, who of us really thinks about the sand or grass or dirt beneath our feet as an energy field? It's kind of something that we forget about really when we get out of school, seems like to me. But they state that our planet is a 6 sextillion, which is 6 followed by 21 zeros. Hard to wrap your mind around that. Metric ton battery, basically. So here we are living on this awesome, amazing planet that is just a huge natural battery, constantly replenishing itself with energy through solar radiation, lighting, the heat from the core of the earth, and all of this natural energy that flows through and keeps everything going is something that benefits us. We just have forgotten over the years of really how to do this. I mean, you think about when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do, if it's cold, you put on socks or slippers, or you go outside. So when you go to work, you have on shoes, you get in a car, and you walk in the office, you're on carpet, and we don't touch the earth anymore the way mankind used to. And it's a great analogy of kind of how this works. And even though I'm certainly not good at science, but this is just a little helpful clue here of, if you imagine of all the planets revolving around the sun, and you have your protons with a positive charge, neutrons with no charge, and electrons with a negative charge. In this example, negative really means positive in a sense. But the way grounding works is how Earth is a natural negative charge because of these particular electrons. And it's something that we've lost touch with, and this renewed supply of energy we're missing out on. And it really is something that can heal us. Again, not something overnight. It's not going to cure all your ails, but it seems like it helps incredibly when you give it a shot. and it helps with the electrical imbalances of your body and the free radicals that are involved in chronic inflammation. And that is a part of every disease out there, really. But that's a little bit about the theory behind earthing, is how the negative charge clears us of a lot of things that can cause disease.
I think that makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
I think we're all on the same page. I wish I could kind of be devil's advocate, but I don't think I can in this case, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people, and a lot of things we talk about are controversial, and there's going to be different opinions, and most of it's unprovable. But in this particular case, this is something that I like to talk about. I like to expose people to, because as it turns out, almost everyone who tries it has a positive experience. And at the worst, you're going to sit down, you're going to relax, you're going to clear your head for a few minutes, and you're probably going to walk away feeling a lot better than you did when you started. So giving it a shot it's a no-brainer, honestly. And meditation by itself. So earthing does not require meditation. It doesn't require you to sit down and cross your legs and wear a toga or whatever. It you meditate how you want to. I'll do it my way.
So I don't use a toga, but whatever floats your boat.
Right? I just like to look the part.
Okay.
It doesn't require you to do anything special. It doesn't require any sort of training or really anything other than to go outside. It's something children have been doing for years. Go outside, take your shoes off, or take your hands and put them on the ground, and just be there. Just be in that moment for a few minutes and see how you feel. And I don't that's something we should probably do more often to begin with, but that we're beginning to see that it does have positive health effects on your blood pressure, on, like we've already covered, inflammation, on the symptoms of, not the cause of, most likely, but the symptoms of chronic disease. It's something that can be good for you. So, I mean, I don't understand why anybody wouldn't at least try it, unless you live in, sub-zero temperatures, and then wait until the spring. But as soon as it's above 50 degrees, go outside and try it.
I have give a shot because a friend was so sweet and got me a grounding sheet for my bed for my birthday. I feel like a lot of these products out there are way overpriced, but that's just me and my cheap budget. But I gave that a try. I need to give it a shot again. I really couldn't tell. To start with, I did get better sleep the first week or so, deeper sleep. And it wasn't anything earth shattering and nothing that I really would endorse or encourage people to go get, just because my experience, it wasn't that big a deal. But the other thing that I tried really, really worked for me. They're like these EKG patches, like they put on you if you go to the hospital, and you plug it in and you're grounded. It was a pain in the butt because they have this long cord on them. If it could be corded, I know, or wireless would be great, but that defeats the purpose. But that was the only thing that was aggravating. But when I would wear that, just placed like maybe even on my wrist or just somewhere on my arm or whatnot, I could feel the biggest sense of calm. It was better than any type of medication I've ever taken for anxiety. That I could really tell a difference. But it was inconvenient. And, going outside is sometimes can be inconvenient because of weather. But still, the whole theory of it really makes sense to me. I've tried it. It works. It's not curing cancer. It's not curing MS. I still have MS, but it makes me a little bit calmer. And for whatever reason, it doesn't matter to me. I enjoy it, and I love being outside. I think being connected to the ground is a good thing. It's fun to be in nature. It puts you in a better mood and better spirits. So to me, that's healing.
I agree. So one of the points that I wanted to make was that, like in the medical, well, you guys know that I have a bit of a medical background. Not that I'm a nurse. Let me just clear that up right now, because my children used to think that I was a nurse, but I was never a nurse. I'm a medical coder, but and have been for over 20 years. So I've got a ton of medical crap in my brain. But anyway, so from a medical standpoint, you know, like if they do cardiac shock, if they do, you know, like they can do the EEGs, and when they do brain electroshock therapy, if they do any kind of biofeedback therapy, all of that is from an electrical standpoint. So to me, the information that I found in that NIH article that was talking about how the electrons, that they're free electrons that are on the Earth's surface, they were able to measure those. They're free electrons. And that those get absorbed into the body via direct contact. So skin to earth contact, and those neutralize the free radicals in our body. And that's what reduces the acute and chronic inflammation, which, as you know, we've all previously agreed is kind of the root of all evil, sort of. To me, it's a 1 + 1 = 2 correlation. And I just feel like it makes total sense that something like that would be completely beneficial in ways that maybe aren't fully understand yet, but maybe we're on the way to understanding them. And that, you know, measuring the electricity, so to speak, which is what I was searching for when I was, you know, first looking into everything, that maybe it's not able to be captured in ways that are available by current technology. Like maybe the electricity, quote unquote, would be so tiny, you know, like less than kilowatts, like maybe nanowatts or something silly like that. Do you know what I mean? But it's not, to me, in my head, it's a moot point, because it doesn't matter, because the effects are measurable. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's a correlation between the rise in technology and the rise in depression and chronic disease. So the more technology we have and the less time we're spending outside, the more depression there is, and the more anxiety there is, and the more chronic diseases, the longer it takes for wounds to heal, the more people have that feeling of unease, and it just an overall sense of unhappiness. And I think that there's absolutely positively a correlation between the two. That's just like my overall summary of the subject, if you will.
And maybe we'll cover this in a future episode, because you just gave me a good idea on that. But there are a lot of questions surrounding technology and the effect that it's having on the human body. The human body is an electrical system. We're basically electricity passing through water. That's how we function. That's how everything that we do works. And we're introducing more and more disruptions in that through artificial wavelengths. And we're just starting out with 5G, and there are a lot of people who are adamantly opposed to 5G, and those that say that it's completely harmless. Truth is, I don't think we know. I don't think we could possibly know yet, because it just hasn't existed long enough to show the full effect. But we know the effects that microwaves have on tissue at different levels. Some are barely noticeable, and some are fatal. And so we don't know the effect that the Wi-Fi and the cellular range and the radio and the TV signals, and we don't know what they're really doing to us. We know there's an effect. That is without a doubt. But we don't know how pervasive it is. And we don't know what the long-term effects are, but hopefully not too bad. But like you said, there does seem to be a correlation between declining health and technology. And it could be many things. It can be probably multiple things, from the amount of time we spend inside to how much of certain color lights we intake to how little sunlight we're receiving, and then as well, what are we absorbing into our bodies that we're not accustomed to. But
Right.
like you said, if the earth has its own frequency, it has its own particles that are readily absorbed into the system, this would be something more likely to be natural, something that we evolved in conjunction with. So it would make sense that those would be beneficial. It would be something that we knew how to assimilate properly. And so it
I
stands to
agree.
reason that, I mean, there's a basis there that makes sense. So, I mean, I think it's all very logical. I'm excited to see what other studies are done and how far we can go with this. As Anna was saying, I noticed we both tried the sheets and the plugging yourself into a wall, which I got to tell you, even in today's today's technology age, feels very bizarre, and like red flags go up, like don't do this. But it's just a grounding plug. It's safe. And if you do that, do not just stick any random plug into a wall outlet and say I told you to do it. Don't do that. That's stupid. They have kits where it's an approved device that is just a grounding plug and then a wire, and the wire connects to your leg or whatever, and it's supposed to help ground you the same way you would an electrical device in your house, which is what we are. We're electrical devices. We're just fairly advanced versions of them. And I can't say I felt a difference on those. This is really what convinced me that it works, is that plugged into the wall like a cell phone, I didn't feel a whole lot different. And I didn't really use the sheet too much for sleeping, so I can't speak to that. I think you have to have a lot of skin contact. I mean, that's the way it works. So I'm not sure about the efficacy, depending on your sleepwear, things of that nature. But whenever I would go outside and touch directly to the earth, I would always feel better. So, I mean, that's not a laboratory scale blind study, but I noticed that there was definitely a difference between just, grounding, air quotes, with the devices that were used in the study that were shown to have an effect. Grounding that way, I didn't feel half as good as I did, or even a third as good as I did when I went outside. So there's something there.
Could you imagine how the study might have been affected if they had done the same types of things with people outside? Like,
definitely, and in different regions too, because we know that the Earth's not symmetrical. Is not the word. It's not the same everywhere. So I would love to see if different areas of the world have
right,
different concentrations of those electrons that you were talking about.
right. That'd be interesting.
So yeah, it definitely sounds like there's some basis for further study there, and I would really love to see what they come up with. For now, I'm going to continue to accept this as something that does have a positive effect, at least to me, and I hope that several other people will try it as well.
I hope so too.
You're fairly into meditation as well, am I right?
Yes, I meditate every day.
So what does that normally look like for you? Is that something you normally do? I know right now, since you're way further north than us, I imagine you don't open the door if you don't have to. You don't look out a
No, I
window.
do not. I actually do look out the window. I like looking out my windows. I think it's pretty up here, but I grew up in Arizona, so call me crazy.
Absolutely. I mean, since we moved back here, after not seeing anything green for several years, it was a little shock to the system just exactly how much nature there is. I absolutely love looking outside. I love seeing it every day. It's very peaceful. But I would not go outside to do a meditation now for anything in the world. So on a typical day, what does yours look like? How do you ground yourself? How do you reach that state?
So like during the winter time, or like when I'm like grounding and earthing at the same time?
A little of both. So I know
Okay.
that like during the summer, you would ideally go outside and the same as we have been discussing, try to make
Mhm.
contact with the earth. Now in the winter,
Yeah.
it's not easy to do that. You can't
No.
just go
No.
outside. So I'd be interested in a little bit on how you accommodate for that and what your
Right.
routine looks like.
So I'll start with how it was during the summertime. So in the summertime, I my preference would be to sit down on the ground and do my meditation there. And if I couldn't, for whatever reason, sitting in a chair with my bare feet touching the ground was usually sufficient. And not the first time, but certainly after a few times, I could start to notice, and some people might not believe me, but everything's subjective, so whatever. But for me, I could feel like, like almost like a little tingling sensation in the soles of my feet during my meditation. And so now that it's, wintertime and the ground is frozen and it's flipping cold outside, I'm not going to go do that outside right now. Plus, all of my patio furniture is in the garage, so that's not even an option. So now that I'm inside, my meditation situation is basically just I have my yoga mat and I do it in my bedroom. But I visualize myself sitting in my backyard. I visualize myself. I visualize it being summertime. I visualize the green grass. I visualize, it being warm outside. I can feel the heat on my face. I'm really good at visualization. And I think that helps, but I also think it's something that's developed over time. It's not something that came easy to me to begin with. It certainly wasn't there the first time I meditated. Me and meditation had a struggle relationship to begin with. That could be a conversation for another day. But now it's to the point where when I'm inside and I'm doing my meditation, I picture myself with my feet on the ground, or I picture myself sitting in my yard. And I can still feel those same sensations. I can feel the tingling in the soles of my feet. And it's not any different for me. Granted, I realize some people may not meditate in the same way. But the nice thing is that meditation is ultimately whatever makes you feel calm, whatever makes you feel elevated, whatever makes you feel happy and centered and connected with the earth. So if that is you closing your eyes for 5 minutes and picturing yourself on a beach, good, then do it. If it's, picturing yourself sitting in your favorite mall eating Haagen-Dazs, okay, great. You know what I mean? So what works for me in my meditation may not be what works for everybody else, but it's certainly something that develops and changes over time. So it's definitely an individual thing.
It's awesome. I think my new meditation is going to be sitting in the kitchen at the table, actually eating the Haagen-Dazs.
If that makes you happy, then go right for it.
That sounds awesome. I don't know why I was never introduced to this particular school of thought before, because that's a winner.
Because you always figured, well, if I'm meditating, I have to be, dressed in my toga at the very tippy top of a pointy mountain with clouds all around me.
I mean, that's just
right?
me. That's just me. I think they're very freeing. They're very comfortable. And if I'm being honest with you, it's not even a toga; it's just a bed sheet that I that I stole. And Anna
Tied
told me to
around you.
stop getting grass stains on it.
She's like, this is the only one you're allowed to use ever because you've already got the grass stains on it.
Absolutely. And I know that with my particular methods, don't always require being outside, but I do prefer to be outside whenever possible. If it's an indoor thing, then it's to find a space that's quiet and peaceful, which is difficult to do. If anybody knows about us and know about our cats, our demon cats that are mutants, and so it's really hard to find a quiet space indoors that you can do anything of that matter. But I feel like exactly what you said. It's just a few minutes, and it can be anywhere, and it can be any time of day. But if you can center yourself and just find a moment to just be in that
Right.
moment, that has a very healthy effect on everything from, like I said, your blood pressure, tension, muscle tension, things like that do help with inflammation, which we've covered about 10 times. And it puts you in a better mindset. It helps you handle stress better. It helps you stop and realign and get a grip on where you are in the day or in your week or in your life. It just gives your mind and your body a chance to relax. And those are very important because it's the continued chronic stress that really
Right.
causes the most damage in our society. And any way that we can find to eliminate that is going to be a positive. So then I'll ask Anna the same thing. I know that you like to do breathing exercises. I know that you've been into that and that's shown some positives. What does your meditation look like in the times when you're not able to go outside and reconnect with the earth?
Mine is kind of all over the place sometimes, but one of the things that I've noticed is when I don't practice regularly, it's almost impossible. It takes several tries, several days to get back into the groove of things. So I know how important it is to practice, but on a typical day, usually when I wake up or every night, 100% as I'm trying to go to sleep, which I struggle with, I do breathing exercises and do my best to breathe as slowly and deeply as possible. And after some time, it's pretty amazing of how much that really can relax you. It makes you feel better. It helps me go to sleep. I go from complete silent meditations. Sometimes I'm in the mood to hear music, or other times, if I can find a voice that doesn't drive me nuts, is I like to have guided meditations, long as it's a comforting voice. I don't have any particular channels that I really go to. I just kind of skip around and find different things on YouTube that fits the mood at the time. And usually I try to pick times when the cats are asleep. And that way there's no doubt of that you can get some peace and quiet in. But I think when I first started learning to meditate, I was really sick at the time and I had a broken heel and I was still trying to work full time. So by the time I got home from work, I was so exhausted and in so much pain, I would have to lay down. And then I would start doing my practices and different meditations. So I think because I started that way, now it's just what I'm used to. So I have my best meditations when I'm lying down and I can completely relax. Sometimes sitting can hurt your back or neck when you have issues and whatnot. But it's just whatever you're comfortable with. Like Elaine said, that is That's the most important thing. Doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a circus. If you're able to relax and meditate, then that's fine. Then that's what works for you. Or if you need complete silence and deep breathing, that's great as well. Just whatever works for you.
Something we didn't discuss is that grounding works for pets as well. So the same studies that have been done on humans have found that animals can experience the same benefits. The health levels, the lower blood pressure, all of that. It's not just a human thing. So that brings into question the psychological factor of maybe the placebo effect, and we just want it to work, or maybe we just really love being outside. But that animals who have had what they call a simulated muscle trauma, so they in a laboratory environment, they did it with workouts, I believe. So they what's called delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS. So during the recovery period from extreme physical labor, they would watch the body's reaction, and that when an organism, a human or animal, was grounded during this time, they had a faster healing process, and they had a more effective healing process. So it's not just people. You can take your pets if they'll let you, and you don't live near a highway. You can take them outside and put their little feet in the ground and just let them play, let them run in the grass. It does have a good effect. It is taking care of your pets and helping their health.
I have seen little dog beds that they make for it too, but who knows?
That's amazing.
I've done some weird things for my pets. I don't know if I buy them a grounding sheet, because they're, like we discovered, they're very expensive. But I will let them go outside and just let them run, and just in a safe environment. Just let them play and get that connection to help them feel better as well. They get the same ill effects on their health from being inside all the time as we do, I'm sure, if not worse, because we don't understand their biology near as well as our own.
Yep.
Would you ever ground your pets?
I'd let them go, like we only have a couple of dogs, and I let them go outside and play. I actually wonder sometimes if that's why my bearded dragon is so mopey. But,
Because it doesn't get out much?
Yeah, he's, in a tank in the middle of Iowa in winter with, artificial heat lamps. So, yeah, I think that's probably a big reason why. And the only time that he doesn't seem mopey is when we've got skin to skin contact. Well, I shouldn't say skin to skin. It's not like I do skin to skin contact, but like when I hold him and I let him, we snuggle. So I put him up, like up by my shoulder, and he's a big guy now, so he kind of drapes along down my chest, and then I put a towel over him, and we just sort of share body heat, and he snuggles with me, and then he seems like he's calm and he's not mopey. He's just chilling out, so. But,
Interesting.
I only have so much time when I can do that. But we've talked about, like, in the summertime, putting him down on the ground and stuff. But man, he's fast, so I feel like he'd take off, and then like a big old hawk would come and just snatch him up.
I've seen that. A friend of mine couldn't take their chihuahuas outside because the hawks.
I know, and we've
would
got
pick 'em
some.
up.
I know we've even got some owls. I can hear them out already. And those get pretty big. So I don't know. I mean, I would.
Yeah, as a ground creature, you would think that they would have evolved to be to be used to touching the ground all the time. So if there is any truth to the grounding theory, then taking them away from that permanently, I wonder what kind of effect it has on them. I know our cat is neurotic about getting outside. He actually.
Do they go bananas when they can't go out?
Yeah, just the one, and he will climb the back door, because there's glass on the upper half of the back door, and he'll climb that, and he'll hang off of it for a really long time, just looking outside. He just really badly wants to be out there. But he's, like you said with your with the bearded dragon, he's super fast.
Yeah.
So catching him is just, if he doesn't want you to catch him, you never will.
Forget it. Yeah.
So we let him out occasionally, but not near as much as he would like.
Yeah.
So I'm going to include another article that we found that has just a little bit more background and some more expansion on those studies. And that'll be in the comments as well. It just covers the different types of earthing you can do. There's some people like to walk barefoot. Some people like to lie flat on the ground. Some like to try in water, which is something we really didn't talk about, but submersing yourself in water like a lake or a natural body of that kind. And there's the equipment that we talked about. So they have not just the patches you can put on the legs or the sheets. They have mats. Grounding mats are pretty popular if you work at home, or if you can work it out in your office. You can put them under your desk and put your feet on them. If you take your shoes off in your office, that's, once again, don't come blaming me. I just told you it was a possibility, but I didn't say it was a good idea. And they have socks and bands you could, like, kind of like the anti-static bands that technicians use, that they wrap around their wrists so that, to dissipate static. Same kind of thing. So they have those as well. And it'll cover that grounding has been used to battle chronic fatigue, chronic pain, anxiety, depression, sleep disorders, cardiovascular disease, all manner of things. And when done properly, there's very little to no danger. When done improperly, human beings, they will find ways to hurt themselves. So please be careful. That being said, I'm going to open the floor. So if anybody who's listening has any questions, any comments, if you want some more information, or if you want to share your particular experiences with us, there's a contact form. The link is in the description at the bottom of this episode. And as always, you can contact us at info, that's INFO, at gestalt-media.com. So this has been Into the Unknown, episode 6, on grounding, earthing, and meditation. And we'll see you next week. Into the Unknown is a production of Gestalt Media.